What if the most feared creature of the night wasn't a monster at all, but one of the most intelligent and socially complex animals on Earth? Forget everything you think you know about vampire bats, because their real story is stranger, smarter, and far more fascinating than fiction ever dared to imagine. In the quiet hours of the night, a small but misunderstood creature takes flight across the darkened landscapes of Central and South America. With leathery wings stretched wide and an uncanny precision in its nocturnal navigation, the vampire bat embarks on its nightly quest for sustenance. This animal, no larger than a human thumb when folded, has become one of the most fascinating and feared mammals in the world due to one trait alone: its diet. Unlike most bats that feed on fruit, insects, or nectar, the vampire bat drinks blood. This evolutionary divergence has captivated scientists for decades and has led to a deep investigation into its biology, behavior, and its complex role in the ecosystems it inhabits. There are 3 species of vampire bats: the common vampire bat, the hairy-legged vampire bat, and the white-winged vampire bat. Of these, the common vampire bat is the most well-known and widely studied. All 3 species are native to the Americas and have evolved unique adaptations to support their blood-based diet, also known as hematophagy. These adaptations are not merely physiological, but also behavioral, social, and even neurological. The common vampire bat, Desmodus rotundus, is especially fascinating due to its complex social structure and remarkable cognitive abilities. Contrary to popular myth, vampire bats do not attack humans in swarms or cause fatal wounds. Their feeding behavior is highly calculated and often limited to domesticated animals such as cattle, pigs, or horses. With heat sensors located on their noses, vampire bats can detect the flow of warm blood beneath the skin of their prey. They approach quietly, landing near their target and crawling on the ground to avoid detection. Once in position, the bat makes a small incision with its razor-sharp upper incisors, which are so specialized they lack enamel and are constantly growing to compensate for wear. The bat's saliva contains anticoagulants that prevent the blood from clotting, allowing it to lap up the blood using its grooved tongue. A typical feeding lasts about 20 to 30 minutes, during which the bat may consume up to half its body weight in blood. Remarkably, the animal is light enough to take off immediately after feeding, unlike some birds of prey that must rest before flight. Because blood is low in nutrients and high in water, vampire bats urinate frequently during feeding to rid their bodies of excess fluid. They must feed nightly or face starvation. Studies have shown that a vampire bat can die within 3 days if it fails to find a meal, making their social bonds and food-sharing behavior even more critical to their survival. One of the most extraordinary features of vampire bat society is its altruistic behavior. Bats that have successfully fed often return to their roosts and regurgitate blood to share with less fortunate colony members. This is not a random act of kindness, but a sophisticated form of reciprocal altruism. Bats remember who has helped them in the past and are more likely to return the favor to those individuals in the future. This level of social intelligence is rare among non-human animals and suggests a deep cognitive capability that includes memory, recognition, and strategic cooperation. Vampire bats also form long-term social bonds beyond feeding. Female bats, in particular, engage in extensive grooming behavior, which helps maintain these relationships and possibly serves as a stress reduction mechanism. These bonds are not only limited to kin, but also form between unrelated individuals, suggesting that vampire bat societies are held together by both familial ties and social contracts. Males tend to be more solitary and territorial, often maintaining small harems of females, but even they exhibit moments of social interaction under certain conditions. Communication among vampire bats is equally impressive. They produce a range of vocalizations, some of which are ultrasonic and inaudible to the human ear, while others are audible chirps, squeaks, and trills. These sounds serve various purposes, including mating calls, social coordination, and possibly warning signals. Recent research even suggests that vampire bats may use individual-specific calls that function much like names, indicating a level of social complexity that continues to surprise scientists. The reproductive biology of vampire bats is also notable. Females typically give birth to a single pup per year, and maternal care is intense. Mothers nurse their young for up to 3 months, and during this time, the pups are completely dependent on their mothers and the colony. In some cases, other female bats, known as alumithers, help care for the young, contributing to a cooperative breeding strategy that enhances pup survival. The bats roost in colonies that can range in size from a few dozen to several hundred individuals, often inside caves, hollow trees, or man-made structures like abandoned buildings and wells. Despite their infamous reputation, vampire bats play a crucial ecological role. By feeding mostly on livestock and occasionally wildlife, they exert a selective pressure on animal populations and can act as natural population regulators. However, their tendency to feed on domesticated animals has brought them into conflict with humans. Vampire bats are known carriers of rabies, and outbreaks of this viral disease among cattle and even humans have led to widespread eradication efforts, including the use of poisons and destruction of roosts. These practices have raised ethical and ecological concerns, as they often harm non-target species and disrupt local ecosystems. Interestingly, the saliva of vampire bats has provided a surprising benefit to medical science. The anticoagulant compound found in their saliva, known as draculin, has inspired the development of new blood-thinning medications for treating stroke and heart attack patients. This is a prime example of how studying even the most reviled creatures can lead to breakthroughs that benefit humanity. The evolution of hematophagy in vampire bats is a subject of significant interest. Genetic studies suggest that these bats diverged from insectivorous ancestors millions of years ago and underwent a series of adaptations that allowed them to digest and metabolize blood efficiently. This includes the loss of certain taste receptors and the evolution of specialized kidney and digestive functions. Scientists have also identified genes related to immune function and DNA repair that are highly active in vampire bats, likely because of their exposure to blood-borne pathogens and the metabolic stress of their diet. Flying on membranous wings. Supported by elongated fingers, vampire bats are adept flyers capable of agile maneuvers through dense forest canopies. But what sets them apart from most other bats is their ability to run and jump on the ground. Unlike other bat species that are awkward and clumsy when grounded, vampire bats use a unique bounding gait to move with surprising speed and agility. This terrestrial ability is essential for their feeding behavior, allowing them to approach prey stealthily. Vampire are not just creatures of folklore or horror stories. They are real animals with complex behaviors, advanced cognitive abilities, and significant ecological importance. Their story is one of evolution, adaptation, and survival against the odds. As more research unfolds, scientists continue to discover new facets of their biology and social life that challenge our assumptions about what it means to be a bat that drinks blood. Their role in disease transmission is often exaggerated and misunderstood. While they can carry rabies, the vast majority of vampire bats are not infected, and rabies outbreaks are relatively rare. Efforts to manage their populations and minimize conflict with humans must be guided by science rather than fear. Conservationists argue that education and vaccination of livestock are more effective and humane strategies than eradication. Vampire bats also offer insights into broader questions of evolution and animal behavior. How did such a specialized diet arise and persist? How do animals cooperate and share resources in harsh environments? What can their vocalizations teach us about the origins of language and communication? These questions make the study of vampire bats not just relevant to biology, but to neuroscience, psychology, and even anthropology. Their story continues to unfold in the dim light of caves and the thieves, shadows of tropical forests. Every night they remind us that nature is filled with surprises, and that even the most unlikely creatures have a place in the grand web of life. Whether gliding through the night sky or creeping silently across a barn floor, vampire bats are a testament to the power of adaptation and the mystery of evolution. In understanding them, we not only unravel the secrets of the unique animal, but also gain perspective on the diversity and resilience of life on Earth. Vampire bats' reliance on blood for sustenance presents unique nutritional and physiological challenges. Blood is rich in proteins and iron, but lacks many essential nutrients like vitamins and carbohydrates. To adapt, vampire bats have developed specialized gut microbes that help them extract as much nutrition as possible from their meals. These microbes assist in breaking down proteins and managing the heavy iron load. Without these microbial partners, the bats would be unable to survive on their extremely narrow diet. Their kidneys also play a crucial role in maintaining balance, filtering out excess nitrogen and maintaining hydration despite their watery diet. Researchers studying the vampire bat microbiome have found it to be remarkably stable and unique compared to other bat species, further illustrating the deep evolutionary partnership between the animal and its internal ecosystem. Another area of intense scientific interest lies in the bat's immune system. Vampire bats frequently feed on a variety of hosts, exposing them to numerous pathogens. Yet they rarely succumb to these diseases themselves. Genetic studies have revealed a strong immune response system that not only protects them from blood-borne pathogens, but may also help regulate inflammation, which is a common side effect of their iron-heavy diet. Scientists hope that by studying these immune adaptations, they might uncover treatments or preventive strategies for human diseases, particularly those involving immune regulation and chronic inflammation. The ability of vampire bats to form long-term social memory also sheds light on cognitive evolution. In laboratory and field studies, vampire bats have shown an ability to remember individuals they have interacted with even after months of separation. They recognize their social partners by vocal cues, smell, and behavior patterns. These memories are crucial for maintaining the reciprocal food-sharing networks that are central to their survival. Social memory in vampire bats rivals that seen in some primates and dolphins, animals long recognized for their intelligence. This has led to a growing recognition that intelligence in animals evolves in many different contexts, not just in large-bodied, long-lived mammals. Vampire bats are also under increasing environmental pressures. As forests are cleared for agriculture and development, bat habitats are fragmented or destroyed. This often pushes the bats closer to human populations, increasing the chances of conflict. In some parts of Latin America, vampire bats are blamed for livestock deaths and even human disease, leading to mass culling campaigns. However, these efforts are often ineffective and ecologically damaging. Many of the chemicals used to poison bats also harm other wildlife, and the disruption of colonies can lead to unintended spread of disease as displaced bats form new roosts and contact new hosts. Conservationists emphasize that coexistence strategies, such as livestock vaccination, improved sheltering methods, and public education, offer better long-term solutions. There's also growing evidence that vampire bats are responding to climate change. As temperatures rise and rainfall patterns shift, the range of vampire bats may be expanding northward into areas of Mexico and potentially the southern United States. This raises concerns about the spread of diseases like rabies, but it also provides an opportunity to study how flexible these animals are in adapting to new environments. Will they find enough food in these new areas? Will they change their prey preferences? Scientists are closely monitoring populations to track these changes and prepare mitigation strategies. In addition to their feeding and social behavior, vampire bats are fascinating in how they raise their young. After birth, a mother bat carries her pup for several weeks, clinging tightly to her as she flies. Eventually, the mother begins to leave the pup in the roost while she forages, returning later to nurse. During this time, pups learn by observing and mimicking adult behavior. In some cases, young bats begin to follow adults on their nightly excursions and even practice feeding on wounds opened by more experienced bats. This kind of learning suggests that vampire bats may have elements of cultural transmission, where knowledge and behavior are passed from one generation to the next, not just genetically, but socially. The way vampire bats sleep and rest is also of interest. During the day, they roost in complete darkness, often clustering together in dense groups for warmth and safety. These colonies can be noisy, with constant chattering and grooming. Some bats prefer the company of specific individuals, forming cliques or subgroups within the larger colony. Observations have shown that disputes and reconciliations occur, much like in primate groups, where individuals groom each other after conflicts to restore social harmony. These dynamics contribute to a surprisingly complex society built on trust, cooperation, and memory. Despite their name and their reputation in horror fiction, vampire bats are not aggressive or malicious. They are shy, cautious, and highly specialized animals that fill a very specific niche in the natural world. Their ability to survive and even thrive on such a limited resource is a remarkable feat of evolution. They are not villains, but survivors, carving out a life in a challenging and ever-changing environment. The myths surrounding them, of bats transforming into vampires, of dangerous bites in the night, have obscured the truth of their biology. They are not monsters, but mammals with families, memories, and relationships. In indigenous cultures of Central and South America, vampire bats were sometimes seen as omens or spirits, neither wholly good nor bad, but beings that lived in the margins of human society. These interpretations, though influenced by superstition, also reflected a kind of respect for the mystery and adaptability of these animals. Today, as science replaces myth, we see a fuller picture of what vampire bats are and what they are not. They are one of nature's most finely tuned creations, perfectly adapted to a niche that few other animals could occupy. Technology is now allowing scientists to explore vampire bat behavior in even more detail. Miniature GPS tags and radio transmitters are being used to track their movements across landscapes, revealing new insights into how they choose their feeding sites, how far they travel, and how they interact with other bat colonies. Acoustic monitoring is also being used to record and analyze their vocalizations, helping to decipher the meaning behind their calls. Each discovery adds to our understanding of an animal that has lived in the shadows literally and figuratively for centuries. Even in captivity, vampire bats continue to teach researchers about animal cognition, cooperation, and even empathy. Studies have shown that when a bat sees another in distress, it may go out of its way to comfort or assist it. While it's tempting to anthropomorphize this behavior, it suggests that social emotions in animals may be more common than once thought. The lines between human and animal cognition are increasingly blurry, and vampire bats are helping redraw those lines. In the grand scheme of the animal kingdom, vampire bats are a small and specialized branch, but their story echoes larger themes about adaptation, cooperation, and survival. They challenge our perceptions of what animals are capable of and how complex even the smallest mammals can be. From the micro scale of their gut bacteria to the macro scale of their social lives and ecological impact, vampire bats offer a window into the intricate machinery of evolution. They are a reminder that nature doesn't work according to human rules or expectations. An animal that drinks blood and flies silently through the night might seem like the stuff of nightmares, but in truth, it is a marvel of biology, honed by millions of years of evolution. As we continue to learn more about them, we may find that they have more to teach us, not just about science, but about the deep interconnectedness of life itself. The vampire bat's evolutionary history is as intriguing as its modern behavior. Fossil records suggest that the ancestors of modern vampire bats were insectivorous and gradually transitioned toward a blood-based diet. This dietary shift likely began with feeding on ectoparasites, like ticks or wounds on large animals left by other predators. Over time, natural selection favored individuals with anatomical and physiological traits better suited for hematophagy. The transformation involved significant changes: modified dentition for cutting skin, enhanced olfactory and thermoreception systems to locate blood vessels, and a reshaped digestive system to process a fluid diet. One of the most striking adaptations was the development of anticoagulant compounds in the saliva, which allowed sustained blood flow while feeding. This shift in diet created a completely new ecological niche that only vampire bats occupy among. Mammals dot their nocturnal habits provide not only stealth, but protection from heat and predators. At night, many prey animals are less alert, giving vampire bats a better chance to approach without being detected. Their infrared sensing capability, located in special pits on their nose, helps them identify warm areas of the body with rich blood flow. This trait is similar in function to pit vipers, although it evolved independently, a clear example of convergent evolution. Once a bat identifies a good feeding site, it uses its precision-cutting teeth to create a small incision, often without waking the host. Feeding is quiet and efficient, a behavior that minimizes risk and ensures survival. The bat's feeding mechanics are fine-tuned for efficiency. Their tongues have grooves that work like tiny straws, drawing blood through capillary action rather than suction. While drinking, they continue to excrete excess liquid to keep their weight down for flight. A full feeding might be 2 tablespoons of blood, a small amount for the host, but a vital meal for the bat. Interestingly, bats will sometimes feed from the same animal for several nights in a row, returning to the previous wound. Their saliva not only keeps the blood flowing, but also contains mild anesthetics that help avoid detection by the host. Social dynamics within a vampire bat colony are remarkably advanced. Bats maintain long-term relationships, not just between mothers and offspring, but among adult females as well. These relationships are maintained through frequent grooming sessions, vocal exchanges, and food sharing. A bat that fails to feed is known to approach others in the colony, emitting a specific call to request a regurgitated blood meal. This sharing is more than random charity. It's guided by memory and trust. Bats remember who has shared with them before and are more likely to help those individuals in the future. Such reciprocal behavior builds a resilient social safety net that supports the survival of the colony as a whole. Male vampire bats lead a different social life. While females tend to remain in stable social groups, males often compete for access to roosting sites and females. Dominant males may establish territories within the roost, trying to monopolize groups of females, but their success depends on both strength and social strategy. Aggressive males risk alienating potential mates, while those that integrate more smoothly into the group often have better long-term success. This balance of aggression and cooperation is common across many mammalian societies, but in vampire bats, it takes on a uniquely subtle and complex form. Got another fascinating aspect of vampire. Bat behavior is their ability to recognize and track individual roostmates over time. Using scent and vocalizations, bats can identify individuals even in large colonies. They can distinguish between familiar and unfamiliar calls, and they respond differently depending on the context, such as whether the caller is requesting help, warning of danger, or simply making social contact. These vocalizations are often individualized, like names, and are used in many different social contexts. This kind of individualized communication was once thought to be rare among animals, but is increasingly recognized as more widespread than previously believed. Research on captive vampire bats has further revealed their flexibility and intelligence. In experimental settings, bats have demonstrated problem-solving abilities, memory retention, and even deception. For instance, a bat might pretend not to recognize another bat it owes a favor to, avoiding the social obligation to share food. These behaviors suggest a level of social cognition that goes far beyond instinct. They imply that vampire bats are capable of managing complex relationships, weighing decisions based on past interactions, and even strategizing future social moves. Their ability to adapt to new environments is also notable. Vampire bats have been observed feeding on a wide range of animals, from native wildlife to introduced livestock and even domestic pets. In extreme cases, they have fed on humans, especially in rural or poorly protected sleeping areas. While these events are rare and generally not dangerous, they highlight the adaptability and opportunism of these creatures. As environments change due to human activity, vampire bats are often among the first to adjust their behavior and diet to match the new conditions. This makes them both resilient and potentially problematic when it comes to public health. Efforts to manage vampire bat populations have historically involved eradication campaigns, often using poisons like anticoagulant paste applied to captured bats. These bats are then released to return to their colonies, where grooming spreads the poison to others. While effective in reducing colony size, these methods are controversial and can harm non-target species. They also disrupt social structures, sometimes leading to increased disease transmission as bats disperse and seek new roosts. More recent strategies focus on vaccination of livestock, habitat management, and ecological monitoring to reduce conflict while preserving the species. Rabies transmission remains the most significant health concern associated with vampire bats. Infected bats can transmit the virus through their bites, leading to outbreaks among livestock and, in very rare cases, humans. However, most vampire bats are not rabid, and healthy colonies pose little threat when left undisturbed. Surveillance and vaccination efforts are crucial in managing the risk. Scientists are also exploring the possibility of developing oral vaccines for bats that could be delivered in bait or through genetic engineering. Such innovations may one day allow for the control of rabies without harming bat populations. Beyond their role in rabies transmission, vampire bats have become valuable research models in biomedical science. The anticoagulants in their saliva have already inspired medical treatments, and their immune system is being studied for insights into virus resistance. Their social behavior and communication abilities are being used to explore fundamental questions in neuroscience, psychology, and behavioral ecology. Each new discovery adds to our understanding not just of bats, but of the biological principles that connect all mammals, including humans. Vampire bats continue to challenge our assumptions about the natural world. From their efficient blood-feeding techniques to their sophisticated social lives, they demonstrate that intelligence and complexity are not limited to large animals or those with long evolutionary lineages. Instead, they remind us that nature favors adaptation in all forms, even those that seem strange or unsettling to human eyes. Their survival strategy, though rare, is elegant and effective, proving that evolution finds a way in even the most unexpected niches. In the ecosystems they inhabit, vampire bats play a role that is not easily replaced. By feeding on weakened or injured animals, they may help call unhealthy individuals, much like natural predators do. Their presence influences the behavior and movements of larger mammals and can indirectly shape the dynamics of the entire community. While often viewed through a lens of fear, they are in fact integral components of the ecosystems they live in. Understanding vampire bats requires setting aside myths and focusing on facts. They are not invaders or villains, but part of a broader web of life that has evolved over millennia. As with many animals that inspire fear, the more we learn about them, the more we see their value and beauty. They are survivors, caregivers, communicators, and explorers of the night masters of Vol. A life sustained not by prey, but by blood, and held together not by dominance, but by trust and cooperation. As scientific research continues to expand, vampire bats are offering deeper insights into genetics, physiology, and behavioral ecology. Genomic sequencing has unveiled a range of genes that are either enhanced or suppressed in vampire bats compared to their close relatives. For example, genes involved in taste perception have been lost or significantly altered, as taste is far less relevant in a blood-only diet. Similarly, genes associated with insulin regulation and glucose metabolism are uniquely tuned to accommodate their protein-rich, sugar-poor meals. These genetic changes are not random, but are shaped by the evolutionary pressures of a highly specialized feeding strategy. They offer a glimpse into how the genome can be restructured over time in response to an organism's environment and lifestyle. One of the most compelling findings involves vampire bats' ability to tolerate high levels of iron. Blood is extremely rich in iron, and most animals would suffer from iron overload if they consumed it in such quantities. But vampire bats have evolved a system to sequester and excrete excess iron efficiently. Specialized liver proteins and unique pathways in their kidneys help process the metal and prevent toxicity. This adaptation not only supports their dietary needs, but may also hold implications for human medicine, particularly in the treatment of disorders like hemochromatosis, where iron builds up in the body to harmful levels. Their digestive system is another marvel. The vampire bat's stomach has evolved to act more like a blood reservoir than a traditional digestive chamber. It absorbs water quickly and begins processing proteins almost immediately. The lining of the stomach and intestines contains enzymes tailored to break down the components of blood, including hemoglobin and serum proteins. These enzymes work rapidly to extract nutrients and eliminate waste, allowing the bat to maintain its energy levels for flight and social interaction. Even their saliva is loaded with specialized molecules, not just anticoagulants, but also enzymes that prevent bacterial growth, protecting the bat from infections that could result from feeding on open wounds. From a behavioral standpoint, vampire bats are now recognized as one of the most cooperative mammals in the animal kingdom. Food-sharing behavior is particularly vital, given their need for daily feeding. A bat that goes more than 48 hours without a blood meal is at serious risk of starvation. This makes the social bonds between bats not just a luxury, but a survival mechanism. When a bat shares food, it is investing in future support, creating a network of mutual aid. Observations in both wild and captive colonies have shown that bats remember acts of generosity and are more likely to reciprocate to individuals who have helped them before. This behavior reflects a kind of moral economy in bat society, where reputations are built and maintained over time. Communication is central to this social structure. Vampire bats use an array of vocalizations, body postures, and even facial expressions to interact with each other. They can recognize the voices of close companions and even respond to them preferentially. Some of these calls are used to coordinate feeding, while others are used in mother-offspring interactions or to resolve disputes. This complexity has led researchers to compare their vocal behavior to that of primates and dolphins, both of which are known for sophisticated communication systems. By studying bat calls, scientists hope to better understand the building blocks of language and how social environments shape vocal learning. Even in the way they approach feeding, vampire bats demonstrate flexibility. They tend to favor certain host species over others based on availability, ease of access, and blood quality. Cattle are a common target because they are numerous, large, and often left unguarded at night. However, in areas without livestock, bats have been known to feed on deer, tapirs, peccaries, and other wild mammals. They may also show a preference for certain individuals within a herd, returning night after night to the same animal. This selectivity could be due to host tolerance, wound healing rate, or even personality traits in the prey that make them easier targets. Vampire bats are also remarkable navigators. Using echolocation, they map their environment with incredible precision. Unlike fruit bats, which use vision and smell more heavily, vampire bats rely on high-frequency sounds to understand their surroundings in complete darkness. Their echolocation clicks are brief but packed with information, allowing them to detect surfaces, avoid obstacles, and find roosts or other bats. In some cases, they also use passive listening, detecting the sounds made by sleeping animals, like the rustle of fur or breathing rhythms. This multi-sensory integration allows them to approach prey silently and strike with minimal disturbance. Roosting behavior is highly communal. Colonies often roost in caves, abandoned buildings, wells, or hollow trees, where they huddle in groups for warmth and safety. Some roosts have been occupied for decades, passed down through generations. Within the colony, bats establish a kind of social map: who is related to whom, who is trustworthy, who is dominant. These dynamics are constantly shifting, but the overall structure provides stability. Young bats are socialized through grooming and play, gradually learning the roles and expectations of the group. Conflicts do occur, especially among males, but these are often resolved through displays and vocalizations rather than physical violence. In captivity, vampire bats continue to demonstrate astonishing levels of adaptability and intelligence. They learn quickly and can even be trained to perform simple tasks. In one study, bats were taught to associate specific sounds with food locations, a skill they retained for months. Such learning capacity highlights their neurological sophistication. Their brains have enlarged regions associated with social processing and spatial memory, suggesting that their cooperative lifestyle and nightly foraging require significant mental resources. Despite all this, vampire bats remain vulnerable. Habitat destruction, climate change, and conflict with humans continue to threaten their populations. Loss of roosting sites is a particular problem. When forests are cleared or old buildings are demolished, bats are left without safe resting places. As they move into new areas, they may come into closer contact with livestock and humans, increasing the likelihood of disease transmission and leading to further persecution. Conservation efforts are now focusing on preserving known roost sites and educating communities about the true nature of these animals. Misconceptions still drive much of the hostility toward vampire bats, but slowly, awareness is growing. A promising approach in conservation is the creation of artificial roosts designed to mimic natural caves, but placed in locations that reduce human-bat conflict. These roosts provide safe shelters while allowing researchers to monitor colonies more effectively. In some areas, community-led projects have paired roost protection with livestock vaccination campaigns, reducing rabies outbreaks while preserving local biodiversity. These efforts highlight the importance of coexistence and the potential for science and local knowledge to work hand in hand. in the broader context of chiropteran evolution, vampire bats stand apart not only for their diet, but for their social complexity. They challenge the stereotype of bats as solitary or simple creatures. Instead, they reveal the potential for deep emotional bonds, flexible cooperation, and individual recognition, even in species that live in large groups. This recognition is prompting a reevaluation of how intelligence and emotion are distributed in the animal kingdom. Vampire bats have often been feared, but they have also fascinated, serving as metaphors for everything from disease to immortality. Now, through the lens of science, they are becoming known not for the myths surrounding them, but for the remarkable biological realities they embody. They represent a pinnacle of evolutionary specialization and a case study in how behavior, anatomy, and social structure can co-evolve to support a highly unique way of life. From the silent flapping of wings across moonlit fields to the intricate social dances in shadowy roosts, vampire bats live a life of quiet genius, hidden in the dark but full of meaning. The continued study of vampire bats is revealing just how important they are to the ecosystems they inhabit. By influencing the behavior of prey animals, vampire bats indirectly shape patterns of movement and habitat use across large landscapes. For example, livestock that have been targeted by vampire bats may alter their grazing behavior, preferring to rest in areas with more cover or avoid returning to the same nighttime resting sites. This subtle ecological pressure adds another layer to the role vampire bats play in managing and maintaining ecological balance at the microscopic level. The interaction between vampire bats and their prey results in unique evolutionary arms races. Hosts develop thicker hides or behaviors that reduce vulnerability, while bats evolve more precise feeding techniques or improved thermoreception. Over generations, this back and forth creates a finely tuned equilibrium. The adaptations we see in vampire bats today, from their specialized dentition to their advanced olfactory and thermal sensing, are the product of millions of years of such coevolution. Their entire biology is a record of persistent adaptation to one of the most peculiar dietary niches in the animal kingdom. Even the way vampire bats approach sleep and rest is intriguing. These bats exhibit polyphasic sleep patterns, taking multiple short rests throughout the day instead of one long period of sleep. In laboratory studies, their sleep cycles have shown signs of REM sleep, a phase associated with dreaming and memory processing in mammals. This adds another dimension to the study of cognition in bats. If they do indeed engage in a form of dreaming, it suggests a level of neural activity and memory consolidation that could parallel what occurs in more traditionally studied animals like primates or rodents. The cognitive lives of vampire bats continue to push boundaries. Their ability to recall social partners, assess fairness in food exchanges, and possibly even anticipate future needs suggests a level of mental time travel, a skill once believed to be uniquely human. This capacity allows them to plan, strategize, and navigate a social landscape as complex as any seen in birds or primates. For example, a bat that remembers being fed by a roostmate 2 nights ago may be more inclined to return the favor, even if that bat is not currently hungry. Such foresight is a rare and valuable survival tool in their precarious world. Technological advances in biologging have further expanded our understanding of vampire bats. Miniature devices can now track heart rate, location, vocalizations, and even the timing and success of feeding events. These tools are revealing patterns that were previously invisible, such as the discovery that bats often coordinate with specific partners to forage, even leaving the roost together and returning as a pair. This coordinated behavior mirrors the kind of partnership hunting seen in some birds of prey and marine mammals, and it raises fascinating questions about coordination, trust, and role specialization among bats. Another important revelation from recent studies is the extent to which vampire bats care for their young. Mother bats invest considerable energy in raising their offspring, not only through nursing, but also by introducing them to social networks. Juvenile bats observe the interactions of adults and begin to learn whom they can trust and who has status within the group. In some cases, mothers appear to encourage social grooming between their offspring and other members of the colony, effectively helping to build their pup's social standing. This deliberate fostering of social bonds shows how deeply vampire bat behavior is woven into a network of cooperative relationships. Mating systems among vampire bats are similarly diverse and not as strictly hierarchical as once thought. While dominant males may control certain roosting areas or groups of females, females retain considerable autonomy in mate choice. They may engage in mating with multiple males, and genetic studies of offspring show that paternity is often mixed within a colony. This genetic diversity helps buffer against disease outbreaks and supports a broader range of behavioral traits within the group. It also reinforces the idea that social cohesion is maintained less by control and more by interaction. And exchange. In terms of physical health, vampire bats are surprisingly resilient animals. Despite living in close quarters and regularly feeding from wounds, they show low rates of infection compared to what one might expect. Their immune systems are finely tuned to detect and neutralize blood-borne pathogens. Scientists are investigating the specific immune responses that give vampire bats this resilience, with the hope of applying these insights to human medicine. For example, the balanced vampire bat strike between immune activation and inflammation control could inform treatments. For autoimmune diseases or chronic infections in humans, vampire bats also offer models for understanding aging. Some studies have suggested that, like many bats, vampire bats age more slowly than other mammals of similar size. This may be due to their ability to avoid predation, their high metabolic efficiency, or the social support they receive from their colonies. Researchers are particularly interested in their telomere dynamics, telomeres being protective caps on the ends of chromosomes that tend to shorten with age. In vampire bats, telomere length appears to be preserved longer, indicating a potentially slower aging process that defies typical mammalian patterns. Despite the many revelations about their intelligence, resilience, and social complexity, vampire bats remain widely misunderstood. Their association with blood and disease continues to color public perception. Cultural depictions in films, books, and legends often portray them as malevolent or monstrous, reinforcing fear rather than curiosity. But those who study them firsthand see something very different. A creature finely attuned to its environment, capable of extraordinary acts of generosity, cooperation, and adaptability. They are not just survivors, but social engineers, building networks of support and trust that rival those of far more celebrated animals. As research continues, conservation becomes increasingly important. Habitat preservation is key, not only to the survival of vampire bats, but to the overall health of tropical and subtropical ecosystems. Their roosts should be seen as vital parts of the landscape, deserving of protection rather than destruction. Educating farmers, landowners, and local communities about the true nature of vampire bats can lead to more humane and effective coexistence strategies. There is growing evidence that when people understand the biology and behavior of vampire bats, they are more willing to adopt measures like livestock vaccination, protective coverings for animals, and habitat-friendly farming practices. The future of vampire bats lies at a crossroads between fear and understanding. As we peel back the layers of myth and misperception, what remains is a creature of extraordinary depth, a flying mammal that navigates the night not with blind instinct, but with deliberate choice, shaped by memory, emotion, and social connection. Their story is not one of horror, but of biological triumph, a testament to the creativity of evolution and the richness of life's possibilities. By observing and learning from them, we not only come to understand a remarkable animal, but also reflect on our place in nature. We see that intelligence takes many forms, that family and community are not unique to humans, and that survival is often more about cooperation than competition. In the hidden corners of caves and beneath the forest canopy, vampire bats remind us that even the creatures of our darkest legends can shine a light on the marvels of the natural world. As scientific inquiry deepens, vampire bats are teaching us that intelligence, cooperation, and adaptation are not the exclusive territory of primates or large mammals. These small nocturnal creatures demonstrate that even animals with specialized diets and constrained environments can develop behaviors and systems of interaction that rival those of far more celebrated species. Their lives are a complex tapestry of feeding challenges, social alliances, maternal care, vocal coordination, and survival strategies. They are a window into evolutionary extremes, where necessity has carved out both physical and behavioral traits that are not just functional, but elegant in their purpose. At the genetic level, vampire bats are marvels of molecular innovation. Every cell in their bodies reflects a history of extreme dietary specialization. Genes involved in sweet and bitter taste reception have been silenced or deleted because blood contains neither sugar nor plant toxins. Conversely, genes responsible for iron regulation, blood digestion, and kidney function are upregulated to compensate for the imbalances and risks inherent in a blood-only diet. Even their immune genes reveal a signature of adaptation, enabling them to handle repeated exposure to pathogens in the blood of numerous animal species. These genomic shifts are not superficial, but represent fundamental rewiring of their biological architecture, refined over millions of years. Their sensory biology also presents fascinating departures from the norm. While many bats use echolocation primarily for insect hunting, vampire bats rely on a broader range of senses to locate their meals. Thermoreception allows them to detect heat radiating from blood vessels close to the surface of their hosts' skin. This sense is so sensitive that bats can detect differences as small as a fraction of a degree. Their noses, with specialized pit organs, are exquisitely tuned to this task. Complementing this is their highly developed sense of smell, which helps them identify familiar individuals and recognize wounds they've previously fed from. Sight and echolocation are still part of their navigational toolkit, but feeding success relies on this fine-tuned blend of smell, heat detection, and tactile precision. A closer look at their feeding reveals further intricacy. Unlike animals that bite and tear, vampire bats are delicate in their approach. They make precise incisions using blade-like incisors, minimizing damage to their host. Their saliva is a cocktail of compounds that not only prevents clotting, but numbs the sight, ensures blood continues to flow, and suppresses microbial activity. The feeding process itself is non-invasive compared to predators that inflict greater trauma. They lap the blood rather than suck it, allowing gravity and capillary action to do much of the work. The bat's tongue rhythmically moves to draw the blood into its mouth, guided by nerves and muscles evolved specifically for that function. Once full, the bat processes the blood rapidly, eliminating plasma to concentrate red blood cells and expelling excess fluid through frequent urination. Socially, vampire bats form complex networks that go far beyond simple herd or colony behavior. Studies have shown that they establish trust through repeated grooming and food sharing. Bats that are groomed more often are also more likely to receive food donations, suggesting that social currency operates in multiple forms. This mirrors dynamics found in primates, where grooming helps form alliances and reinforce social bonds. What is striking in vampire bats is that these behaviors are not confined to kin. Unrelated individuals also engage in this form of mutual support, indicating that cooperation is based on memory, reciprocity, and reputational cues rather than just genetic ties. In a colony, not all bats are equally connected. Social bonds vary in strength and number, leading to a kind of social web where some bats are hubs and others are more peripheral. These central individuals tend to be more generous and are more likely to receive help when in need. If a central bat falls ill or is absent, the effects ripple through the network, sometimes destabilizing food-sharing patterns. This demonstrates that their society is not only structured, but sensitive to disruption, much like human communities. Such interdependence reflects a level of social sophistication that few would expect from a small flying mammal. Vampire bats also show strong maternal investment. Female bats typically give birth once a year after a gestation period of around 7 months. Pups are born with their eyes open and are immediately dependent on their mother's milk. For weeks, the mother will carry the pup on her body as she forages. Eventually, she begins to leave the pup in the roost, returning with milk or even small blood meals. This maternal care extends well beyond weaning. Mothers continue to groom and feed their offspring for months, and in some cases, even years. In multi-generational colonies, older offspring sometimes remain near their mothers and help care for younger siblings or unrelated pups. These cooperative care systems blur the line between individual and collective parenting, strengthening social cohesion. Disease is a constant concern for any blood-feeding species, yet vampire bats exhibit an uncanny resistance to many pathogens. This resistance is not accidental. It stems from a robust immune system that can respond quickly to viral invaders without causing the harmful inflammation seen in many mammals. Their bodies have evolved to tolerate a higher viral load while keeping symptoms in check. This trait has attracted researchers seeking to understand how chronic viral carriers remain healthy, hoping to translate that knowledge into therapies for human diseases. The bat's ability to act as a reservoir for viruses without becoming sick holds clues to managing zoonotic spillover, a concern that grows as human-bat interactions increase. The growing interest in vampire bat research is also driven by broader questions about animal intelligence. In lab settings, bats have solved puzzles, remembered symbols, and even shown signs of empathy. For instance, when a familiar bat is trapped or restrained, others often try to assist, attempting to groom or free them. While interpreting animal emotions must be done carefully, repeated patterns of prosocial behavior under stress suggest the presence of complex emotional states. Their vocalizations, which are used in contexts ranging from conflict resolution to social bonding, further indicate a nuanced inner world. Many of these calls are learned rather than innate, requiring practice and exposure, a trait shared with songbirds and some marine mammals. Habitat fragmentation is perhaps the greatest threat to vampire bats today. As forests are cleared and agricultural lands expand, the bats lose traditional roosting sites and must seek new places to shelter. This often brings them closer to human settlements, increasing the risk of conflict. When vampire bats feed on livestock, farmers may respond with lethal measures, including poisoning or sealing off caves. Unfortunately, such responses often do more harm than good. Poisoned bats may disperse disease more widely, and destruction of roosts can lead to unintended ecological consequences. Educating local populations about vampire bats, their role in the environment, and the effectiveness of livestock vaccination is proving to be a more sustainable approach. Some conservationists are experimenting with novel solutions. Artificial roosts built in areas away from livestock can provide safe shelter while allowing scientists to monitor bat health and behavior. Strategic placement of these roosts combined with livestock management practices, may help reduce the incidence of rabies transmission while maintaining the ecological presence of the bats. Others advocate for the use of non-lethal deterrents, such as netting or repellents that discourage bats from feeding on protected animals. These measures, while still under development, offer hope for a future where human and bat populations coexist without conflict. The legacy of vampire bats is not just biological, but cultural. Throughout history, they have symbolized the boundary between fear and fascination, life and death. From indigenous myths to modern vampire lore, they occupy a place in our collective imagination that few animals do. But unlike their fictional counterparts, real vampire bats are not creatures of malice. They are mothers, partners, foragers, and communicators, living beings with intricate needs and deep social connections. As researchers continue to peel back the layers of vampire bat life, the story grows more inspiring than terrifying. These creatures teach us that the animal kingdom is full of intelligence in places we least expect it. They show that cooperation is as powerful a survival tool as strength, that memory and empathy can evolve in surprising forms, and that even the most specialized animals can flourish when given the space to do so. In the stillness of the night, as wings flutter through the darkness and a bat finds its mark, there is no malice, no drama, just the ongoing rhythm of life. A drop of blood sustains a heartbeat. A shared meal seals a friendship. A newborn clings to its mother, blind to the legends written in its name. And so, the vampire bat lives on, not as a monster, but as one of nature's most fascinating creations, continuing its quiet flight through the mystery of the natural world. In the end, the vampire bat is not a creature of horror, but a symbol of nature's complexity and resilience. Behind its eerie reputation lies a world of intelligence, cooperation, and remarkable adaptation. The more we understand it, the more we realize that even the most misunderstood animals have stories worth telling.